We should be live.
Hey, we made it. How about that? Wow, some fun technical stuff behind the scenes, but we're here. So hello and welcome. This is the Push Button AI live training. And say hello to me in the chat. Give me a big hello in the chat. Let's make sure that you do indeed hear me and you see me. And we'll kick things off. Hello, hello. Okay, good. I see the hellos coming in there. I got my chat panel over here. Got my presentation over there. Of course, I got my camera over here, and we're ready to go. So we're going to get into it. And today's training is going to be all about advanced prompt engineering. So just a reminder for everybody. Oh, I'll bring Bill Finley up as well here. I don't know if you're busy, Bill. Maybe you are. Oh, you're muted, though. It's okay. I'll move on. So,
All good.
Hey, okay. Good, good. Everything good on that side? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to bring you up for a second. So, of course, you got both of us here. So Bill Finley right over there will be in the chat helping to wrangle your questions. He's the producer / question wrangler for the day. And we'll be doing our best to help you in the chat. And but I'm going to be doing most of the talking today. And so I'm going to hog the camera back again and let you go back to doing your thing, Bill. And so during these broadcasts, remember that this live environment is not where we do two things. Two things are off limits here. We do not do tech support while we're live. For tech support, it's really easy to get help. And then the fastest, most efficient, most effective way to get help with tech support issues is to open up your email, send an email to our help team at help@pushbutton.ai, as you see right there. So you can just fire up an email, send it over there, get into the help desk. We'll get it assigned to the appropriate person, and we will get you help with any tech support issues that you have. So, like something is broken, not working right, things like that. That's where you can get quick help for tech support. The other thing we don't cover during these live sessions is customer service. So example, maybe you need to change your email address on your account or your password. You're trying to recover your password, or maybe you got to change your billing information, stuff like that. We also are not very effective at doing that live on air while there's a camera pointed at us. It's not exciting for you guys to watch us do that kind of stuff. So same thing. Any customer service oriented questions like that, you can fire off to the exact same email address that you see right there. Fire it over there. They'll help you as rapidly as they can, and that'll help us keep the show on the road, moving and exciting for everyone. So that's how you get tech support and customer service. The other thing I want to let you know is that we're going to be doing some training today. And when I do training, what I tend to do is we keep it on topic during my training. So I like to keep questions on topic and related to the training, but don't worry, because at the end, we're going to go to open questions. So you can ask me anything I can do to help you grow your business, whatever it might be. I can help you out with that, with advice, coaching, training, problem solving, whatever it is that you might need, a little inspiration, motivation, whatever it is. Accountability is often a big part of being a successful entrepreneur. So whatever you need, I'm here to help you with it. So we'll do that. Open questions at the end. Today's session, I have a hard out at the top of the hour, which means I probably better get into my content pretty darn quickly here. So I'm just checking one last time. Chat seems to be going well. Lots of people here, so that's good. Presentation's going, and we're ready to go. Okay, so
one more update before you start.
Mm-hmm.
And that is for the people who have requested add-ons. Those are completed on some sites now. In fact, they're completed on more sites than I've been able to announce. So some people have their add-ons completed and ready to go, but I haven't been able to tell them because I'm swamped doing more add-ons. And so you'll start to hear about that. But especially if you were among the early batch that we were building for, those are done.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I know you've been doing a great job just getting the add-ons area more and more organized and running smoother and smoother. So I'm happy to hear about that. So yes, I know our add-ons process has been lagging behind, but it is now catching up, and we're starting to get in a pretty good place. So thanks, Bill, for all that you do over there in that area. Cool. Well, then here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about prompt engineering. And by popular request of our customers, you guys wanted to learn a little more about my viewpoint and how I use prompts inside of my business. And there are some really core differences that are a little weird that I do when I'm creating prompts and I'm engineering prompts that I'm going to share with you. So if you're prepared, how would you like a blend of philosophy, spirituality, and artificial intelligence all bundled into one that enables you to create some pretty effective and useful prompts to use in tools like ChatGPT? It's a little unconventional. Some might say a little weird, but it works really, really well. So I'm going to show you my advanced prompt engineering strategy, how I go about doing it, and you'll be an expert at this technique by the time we are done. So that is what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to share my screen, which I should have set that up ahead of time. Let me get the screen sharing going. There we go. Go full screen on it. So we're going to be talking about advanced prompt engineering. And it's a little bit, you might not realize at first why we're going to talk about this, but it makes sense because artificial intelligence is trying to simulate a human, right? That is essentially what it's doing. It's trying to simulate how a human would respond. And it's analyzed trillions of words, probably, of, I don't remember the exact number of words in the language model, but lots of human words. And it has studied those human words, and it knows how a typical human responds, and it tries to copy what a human would do, what a real live human would say, what a real live human would do. It tries to reproduce that, and it just kind of spits it back out, almost like a very clever parrot in a sense. And so when you want to create prompts that get you results, get you the results you're looking for, to get information and content and articles and things out of one of these large language models, which are things like ChatGPT, right? The chatbot that everybody is, all the buzz everybody's talking about as of the time of this recording. You have to create your prompts with that understanding that you're kind of needing to simulate how a real human would respond. So let's get into that a little deeper, okay? And I'm curious, anybody here ever heard of this concept? Be, do, have. Anybody here in the live audience familiar with the be, do, have principle? I'm curious. Give me a yes or a no in the live chat. Cool. Okay, good. All right. Someone has heard about it. A couple of no's. There's a yes, another no. Okay, so another yes. Okay, here we go. Okay, here come the responses. There we go. Looks like mostly no. All right, so the be, do, have concept in modern times, in Western culture, was popularized by a figure, L. Ron Hubbard, of Scientology fame. He is the one who has kind of made this broadly known. It's since been adopted by, I think, Zig Ziglar and a few others that have done it since then. I think it was back in the early 50s when he popularized this success concept. Now, this concept goes way, way back, down to the Greek philosophers like Aristotle talked about it in a sort of a different sense, all the way back into Taoism, going back into Eastern traditions, and then going back even more in time, thousands of years ago, the Vedic hymns and some of the really early religious teachings in the early Hindu religion talked about this concept. And this is what we're going to talk about today, because this is how I create my prompts. Now, it might be a little bit unexpected to many, but this is the entire concept behind how I engineer and craft prompts. Because let me explain, I'm going to tell just a little bit about this concept, okay? It goes a little something like this. Most people focus on what they want to have. right? That's usually the first thing someone thinks about, right? I want to write an article, right? That's the have. What do you want to have? I want to have a new car. I want to have a house. I want to have a good job, right? All of these things are the have components of life, right? So you're talking about just life in general, okay? So when you have something, that's where everybody's attention is. But that's actually backwards. You have to actually do something in order to have something. So if you want that fancy house, what are you going to do to get it? If you want that great job, what are you going to do to get the great job? If you want an article to publish on your website, well, what are you going to do to have that article? And it goes even further than that. Before you can do something, you need to figure out who are you going to be before you do. Does this make sense? So an example, if you're looking for a great job and you have an amazing career plan for what you want in the future, who do you need to be right now in order to do the next steps that get you to the end goal of what you want to have? Just want to make sure this is clicking a little bit. I want to make sure the basics of this is understood, and then we're going to go on into prompt engineering. So, because again, I know this is a little bit of a weird concept to be talking about for artificial intelligence and coding and programming, but that is the basic idea. Is the correct sequence that you would do anything in life or have anything in life is to first understand be. Like, what is the profession that you need to sort of be doing, in order to do, which then have? What knowledge do you need to do and then have? How do you need to behave, in order to, before you, in the process of doing and having? These are all components of be. So you have to know, what do you need to be before you can get into doing stuff to then have the things that you want in life. And you can't do it in any other sequence. It's really funny how that works. It's impossible in the universe to get straight to have without the previous other steps being done properly. And what I find is most people are obsessed with the have portion, right? Especially in the world of entrepreneurship and business building, we're all focused on what do we want to have. Most of us haven't thought about what are we going to do? What are all the doing steps that have to be complete in order to have the successful business that we want? And then before we can do those steps, who do we have to be? Do we have to learn some marketing know-how, marketing knowledge, and terminology? Do we need to learn a little bit of technical stuff? Or do we need to find people that we can hire to be those things for us, right? So you see how that works? Cool. All right. Everybody got it? Anybody need any further clarification on that? If not, we're going to move on. Let me go back to my screen. And it'll all come together. You'll understand what the heck this has to do with prompt engineering in just a moment. Okay. All clear? Anybody need any clarification before we move on with the live audience? Good, good. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. We're moving on. So when you're writing a prompt, you're going to pull up ChatGPT. In fact, let me pull up the ChatGPT window. Here it is right here, right? So in ChatGPT, you get to send a message down here. This is our prompt, right? Anything we say or ask to ChatGPT is our prompt. So basically anything we type down here before we send it in is a prompt. And so what I'm doing when I'm trying to create stuff is we want to tell ChatGPT, who does it need to be? Let me explain. Maybe I want it to write an article for me, but in order to know what to say in that article, it has to assume a profession. Let me give you an example. Act as an expert article writer who is skilled in the art of persuasion and knows all about how to train dogs. He's going to write an article to help people understand, right? So this, you see how this is working? We're start by telling ChatGPT who we want it to be first. And you can stack these together. It can be professions, skills, knowledge, points of view, and any other kind of characteristics that you can think of to properly orient ChatGPT so it knows what to do. For example, you wouldn't walk up to just a guy on the street and say, hey, write me an article about, how to train my dog. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm a cat person. I don't have a dog, right? And you want to orient ChatGPT to be the exact person who is perfectly suited to create the thing that you want to create. Does that make sense? The next part of your prompt is the do. What do we want ChatGPT to do? Do we want it to research something, analyze something? Do we want it to write something, create something, list something, outline something, plan something? These are all and there's a bunch of other things that it can do. In fact, let's ask ChatGPT itself, what can it do? Let's ask, and here first, let's set it to GPT-4, and let's ask, what kinds of things can you do for me? Which right there is also an amazing advanced strategy. Just ask ChatGPT. Just ask it. It will tell you all kinds of things about itself. It can educate you about anything you want. But today we're talking about using prompts to get it to do and create things for you, right? So it's telling you all the different kinds of things it can do, okay? Let's let it finish this. Now, for us, we're heavily focused on creating stuff, right? Most people, I think, want to create articles, sales pages, content, things like that. But it can do a lot more than that. So we can ask this in a different way, and we can ask, what kinds of things can you create for me? Right? It's going to tell us the same thing. It can write a story. It can write poetry. It can write scripts, educational content, business content, marketing content, programming code. So you can actually get it to write code for you. Recipes, workout routines, email drafts, resumes and cover letters, and there's even more. But those are some examples. And so anytime you're in doubt and you're not sure what ChatGPT can do for you, just ask it. It'll actually just tell you. All right. So when we're building our prompt, we have said, what do we want ChatGPT to be? What do we want it to do? Like, we're writing this all in one big prompt. Sometimes these prompts are very long. Like, you can have a prompt that is several paragraphs long before you send it in. But this is how we structure it. And then the final part of your prompt is the have step, right? So we're actually now coaxing ChatGPT to behave like a real human. We're telling it, who do we want it to be? What do we want it to do? And more importantly, what do we want to have now at the end? Do we want a lesson for some training? Do we want it to create a course? Do we want a chapter in a book, perhaps, or a story? Do we want an article? Do we want a translation? Right? So these are all the kinds of things that we can ask it to create for us, and a heck of a lot more. These are just some very basic examples. And then what we do is we just simply tell it that. So we might say an example of be do have would be act as an expert in dog training who is also a great educational writer. Then you say, then period. Write a lesson about how to train your dog to stop barking. Now, when it comes to the having part, there are have qualities. Tone. Do you want it to be written cheerfully? Conservatively? Do you want it to be written from like a tone of being bored? You want it to write from a tone of being enthusiastic, right? So that's the emotional level of the content you want it to create. Style. So do you want it to be educational? Do you want it to be simple? Do you want it to be advanced? And you can tell it these things. So you could say, act as an expert in dog training who is also a brilliant SEO writer, period. Write me an article about how to train a dog to stop barking using a cheerful tone in a simple style at the 8th grade writing level, right? And that would be an example of a complete prompt. So we're telling it, again, who is it going to be? What is it going to do? And then in detail, what do we want to have? And this is how you get the best material out of ChatGPT. Now, when it comes to these have qualities, there's a lot of stuff you can ask for here that I haven't gone into on the slides here and talked about. But here, I'm going to pop on camera and talk about this really quickly. Get my camera back. There we are. There we are. So the other thing that you can do is give very specific formatting instructions on the have step. So when you're telling it what you want to have at the end, you can say, format this in simple HTML. You can even specify how you want your headlines formatted. You can get into great detail about how you want the material formatted. You can also tell it things like that you want a bulleted list, or maybe you want a list separated by commas. Maybe you want to give it instructions about what not to do, because sometimes like I'll ask for a list of things and ChatGPT will happily try to tell me how to use the list or give me some commentary about the list, right? And I don't want that. So I might have to tell it not to do those things and say, give me a simple list separated by commas with no other content or commentary, right? And then boom, it'll give me a list of things separated by commas. And I use that as an example a lot when I'm doing keyword research. So if I'm doing some keyword research, I might tell it I want a list either in a bulleted list or in a list with separated by commas. Okay, so you can tell it the formatting style, and you can also tell it what not to have. So it's what you do want to have, but also what you don't want to have. And those prompts can be multiple paragraphs long, and some of our best ones, in fact, are multiple paragraph long. And this is how, in all of the stuff that we do in Push Button AI, they're all formatted using this be, do, have structure in terms of everything we do. And it really makes a big difference in terms of getting what you want out of ChatGPT. This making sense? So I have a little more I want to talk about here, and then I'm going to go to questions. But I want to make sure the audience here that we're here live with, that if you have anything that isn't making sense so far about what I'm talking about, can you apply what I've been saying so far? Does it make sense on how to actually use it? And what we'll do is I'm going to give you an example. We'll do a prompt using this be, do, have structure here in just a minute. Okay. And someone asking a good question. Do you have to do all 3 steps in every prompt that you use? I tend to do that, yes. ChatGPT does have memory. Like you have these they're like little mini browser tab sessions, and it does remember a good chunk of what that conversation is about. If the conversation gets really, really long, it will sometimes begin to forget things. But for the most part, it remembers most of what you're talking about in that browser session. So you wouldn't necessarily have to keep doing all be, do, have steps. And in fact, sometimes I'll do a prompt and it gives me some good output, but it's just not quite right. And I don't have to redo the whole prompt. I'll just say, hey, do that again, but make it simpler or make it longer or do whatever. So then you can have a follow-up prompt and you don't have to do the full be, do, have. Now, if a session is getting long and you've had lots of talking with ChatGPT, it is often better to do the full be, do, have prompt. And I'll demo this so that makes sense, okay? Everybody's tracking along. So what I would like to do next is just do a quick demo of creating a prompt in this structure. Anybody in our audience have any content you want? Anybody want to create a piece of content? Tell me, give me an example. So I don't keep using dog training as my examples. I'm looking for some fresh ideas. And at the same time, I can get one of you an article or something at the same time. So in fact, I want to write an article for someone. So I'll pick one of you guys, what you want me to write, and I'm going to do an article, and I'm going to make it. There's a couple more steps in the training I'm going to give you. I'll take this article all the way through to completion using these 3 steps. Okay.
Anthony says persuasion
Oh, there we go. Persuasion. Okay. So let's do an article. How about an article about the best way to use persuasion in a sales video? How about that? That could be a cool. That is, who is that? That is
Anthony.
Anthony. So hopefully, Anthony, that would be useful. Okay. Oh, now I'm seeing a lot of suggestions. Okay. Well, I said that one, so I'm going to stick with that one. If you guys need more examples, maybe we'll come back and do some more when we get to Q&A. But let's just for our demo right now, we're going to use that. Let me get ChatGPT back. So here's ChatGPT. And you'll see over here in the left side, so this is in the Pro account, which it's a $20 a month account. I don't know in the free account, I don't think it saves your chats perpetually. But basically what you can do to start a brand new one is just hit new chat. And then you have an open empty canvas. So ChatGPT is not going to remember anything that I've talked about before because I hit new chat. It's starting fresh. Okay. You'll notice there's a couple of choices. GTP 3.5 is fast and works for almost everything really, really well. Okay. If you want something that's a little more conversational style, you can use GTP4 here and you just click on the default there. Okay. Now it's using GTP4. Now, right now, at the time of this broadcast, as I don't have my screen showing. All right, so you guys got to watch me while I was describing that stuff. Let's try that again for a nice edit point for you, Bill.
Hey.
So here is ChatGPT. I pulled it up here on screen, and you'll notice here on the left side are past browsing sessions, past discussions I've had with ChatGPT. And then we have the new chat button right here. When you click new chat, it refreshes everything and it starts a brand new session and it forgets everything in the past. So this makes GPT actually just completely forget all the other stuff you've talked about with it. And then you're starting over from scratch. Now you have a choice, GTP 3.5. And again, this will change as it evolves. But at the time of recording this, GTP 3.5 is the default option. And this one is great. I use this a lot. Now, you can have the option for GTP4. And by the way, this is all through one of the professional accounts. It is cheap. It's like $20 a month where you get all these features. But you can also use GTP4. And you have a couple of things. There's some beta things where it will browse the web and some plugins that you could use. These are now starting to be broadly rolled out to everyone. They were private to a small group, but now they're rolling out more broadly. But I tend to use GTP 3.5 or GTP4, the default setting, okay? GTP4 has limits. So you can see here right now, you can only do 25 messages per 3 hours. Okay, so that's a pretty aggressive cap. But 3.5 is useful. It does everything you could possibly need. There's no reason you can't use it for stuff either, okay? Now, let's put this to practical use, okay? So let's do the be do have, and we talked about doing an example for how to use persuasion in video sales letters. So let's ask it to write an article for us. So in this case, we're going to say act as an expert at persuasion and marketing. All right, so there's our B step. Make sure you want to spell it correctly. Act as an expert at persuasion in marketing and marketing, period. Now we'll do the do step. Write a lengthy, you got to spell and use proper punctuation if you can. It does tend to figure out, even if you misspell things, but it's better to spell it right. So we're going to say, write a lengthy article about, I'll often put it in quotes when I want a very specific thing. So I'll say about how to use persuasion. You would think that I would know how to spell this word, right? This is sort of what I do. So, but I can't spell it. how to use persuasion in a video sales letter. Period. Okay. Now I'm making this one. This is a pretty simple example of a prompt. But now we're going to get to the have step. Okay. So now for have, let's say, write the article in simple text with a cheerful, emotional tone that uses simple language written at the 8th grade level. Write the article so that it can rank in the search engines and use LSI keyword phrases. Okay. Now, if you haven't heard of LSI keyword phrases, this is in my earlier training in the in our artificial intelligence for business course that we've been delivering to you. This was in a previous lesson. It's all about when I taught how to do search engine optimization. And this stands for latent semantic indexing, which basically just is a fancy way of saying words that Google wants to see in your articles in order to rank them. Okay. I won't get into trying to do the crazy technical definition of what that means, but just for simplicity's sake, understand that that means these are keyword phrases that Google would want to see in an article to make it rank. Okay. So this is simple. It could get really complex. We could ask it to format things if in HTML formatting, if we wanted to. We could say we want you to use certain types of title formats, certain types of headline sub formats. We could ask it to make sure to insert common questions. In fact, you know what? Let's add that. Insert several common questions and answers into the article. Okay? More on the have step. Now, can anybody think of anything that we should add to this as far as whether the be, the do, or the have step? Right? This is a simple but fairly complete prompt. So, okay, nobody has any suggestions. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to submit it, and then let's see what it does with it. Here we go. Now, one other thing I'll mention while it's doing its writing, we can watch it while it writes. But what I'll also like to do is, oh boy, I'm sorry, I'm distracted by how good it is. It's actually pretty good. Yeah, it's doing a great job. So, but as far as prompting what you for the have step, there's all kinds of different characteristics and qualities you could ask it to do. You could ask it for bullet pointed lists to be included in your content. You can ask for a lot of stuff. And one of the things that you're gonna find is for longer pieces of content, ChatGPT will often just sort of like have brain freeze and stop. And I'm sure it's going to do that here. Let's see if it actually does. But in long content, you'll notice it'll kind of just sort of like, freeze up and just stop responding. And when it does that, it's really simple. All you got to do is just tell it to continue. Yeah, I think, oh no, it finished it. Okay, it finished the whole article. That's great.
On that point, there are two ways to tell whether it's frozen up and it's thinking, or whether it ended prematurely. And the best way is to look down where Bill's screen there says send a message. It's the little message box. And then on the right side of that, there's the little submit icon. And while it's thinking, that will be disabled. And then it will come back when it stopped thinking and it thinks it's finished, even if it hasn't.
Yep. And then, yeah, all you do is say continue. Okay. So this is a pretty good article, but it's also not long enough. Actually, this is not long enough. So we're going to talk about how do you make something comprehensive. So ChatGPT is great for doing short articles and short pieces of content. So what do you do when you want a large piece of content? So I'm going to get into that now, and we're going to come back to this and we're going to expand on it and make it even better. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and we'll go back to our presentation. Now, we do this through multi-step prompts. And multi-step prompts are just a series of prompts kind of chained together to help you create content. And we use this a lot in Push Button AI. So since we know that ChatGPT likes to put out short chunks of content, how could we get around that to create a really long lesson, for example, in a course like we do in your courses? Or what if we want a really long, what they call a pillar post, which is a long, comprehensive post that covers everything you could think about a particular topic, right? That's a search engine strategy sometimes to do these pillar posts that are really, really long and full of good information. Well, we do that by chaining together multiple prompts to then assemble one big document. Let me explain, and then I'll demonstrate it on the example we just did. So the first thing I do is I'll use ChatGPT for planning, right? So I might ask it, what are some of the concepts or ideas that I should talk about if I wanted to write an article about how to sell effectively? Then I'll ask ChatGPT to give me an outline or tell me what are all of the sub-headlines, based on that plan, what are all of the sub-headlines that I would need in my article in order to write an effective article. And it's going to give me a list of subheadlines. Then I go through and I create the article. And how do I do that? Is by breaking it down into chunks, because we now have an outline and we know all of the subheadlines, the sub pieces that we're going to build our article out of. And I do it again. I'll then go, so let's say that I ask ChatGPT, we're going to do that. Let's do this live right now so I can demo it with you as I go through so it will make more sense. So let's come back to ChatGPT and let's try this chained multi-step approach. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to start a new chat. Okay. So in the new chat, we'll go back to GTP4. Hopefully I don't run out of messages. So instead of asking it the do step, instead of saying write a lengthy article, research what concepts and topics are needed to write an article about. And since we're not writing an article, we don't need to take, we can take that, we can take and we can say, while making the research outline, plan for it to rank in the search engines and use LSI keyword phrases. So we're going to take that out. All right, so now I have a simpler one. And now all I'm doing is asking it for a plan. Hit enter. Okay. So it's giving me my plan, breaking it down into steps. And so it's going to go through and it's going to break all this. This is breaking down my article about what should be included. And I'm going to let it finish. So while it's finishing, we'll go back to the presentation. Okay. So now what I do is I get my outline and then I create another plan for each piece. So when it comes to like the first, let's say we're going to then break this down. So this has 8 steps, right? So we're going to then break this down and I'm going to say, I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to say, further break down this section of the article into additional concepts that need to be covered, right? So now I'm not having to do the be do have again, because we're saying it's all in context with what the conversation is we're already having. Now it's going to break this down into great detail. You see how I'm chaining this together now. So now I have my plan for my entire article. I've broken it down into an outline. I've created that, and then I need to create each step of the outline. And I do that by planning each step, ask for an outline of each step, and then I create it. And you can chain these together in like where you have multiple steps deep. So if you're trying to create, for example, a very long course or some other extensive content, you just loop these together. They're sort of like, you know, if you think of those Russian dolls that are nested one within the other, right? This is kind of what we're doing. We start with a big grand plan, and then we break it down into pieces, and then we go and we plan each sub piece, and then we execute it. Is this making sense? So this is how you get comprehensive, lengthy content out of ChatGPT, is by chaining them together like this. And so then what you do, we'll come back here, is this would make for a very long article, right? So we can then come in here and say, well, in fact, we could probably just tell it right here. Take that section and write a comprehensive piece of content using related LSI keywords. All right, so now we've told it that subsection, write it, and it's going to write that subsection for us. And now if we did this for each of the 8 pieces, right? So we have our initial list of 8 pieces of our article here, right? So then we take each piece, we break it down, then we further ask ChatGPT to then take that breakdown and write the article. And if you do that, you're going to have a very comprehensive, very well-written piece of content. Is that making sense? So does the Russian doll approach to creating content like this, is this clicking for everyone? Hopefully if you haven't used this yourself yet, this is something that we use a lot. This also kind of highlights some of the value of using the push button AI system. So we've released only our very first of the product line in push button AI, which is our course builder. Many other products are coming out in the push button AI lineup. And for those of you who are part of our program, you're going to get these additional products as they roll out, and that'll be part of what you get for joining as an early bird. But this also really highlights the value of what we do behind the scenes. This is the automations that are running. That's why there's 177 prompts that are run in order to create your courses that we write for you with the course builder. So we're chaining together lots of prompts. So we have, we have the AI doing research, pulling back the research. Then it breaks that research down. Then it tries to figure out what words to use. Then it writes one section at a time. Then it grabs all the sections and puts them together and builds your site with them. So it's quite a lot of work behind the scenes, but now you know the magic. So if you want to build your own, it's a little time consuming, honestly, but you can now do it. And this is the approach. This is the entire concept behind how we do prompt engineering for all of the push button AI products. Okay. So that is how that works. And let me just see, I think I had some more in my presentation I want to cover. Oh, one other thing we'll talk about is ChatGPT can correct itself. So if it's not giving you quite what you want, or you're not certain it gave you what you want, watch what you can do. Let me pull up ChatGPT again. You can just straight up ask it. So in the follow-up prompt here, I can say, are you sure you used LSI keywords in this content. If not, rewrite it and fix it. So we used enough, right? You can ask it to check its work and fix itself. There you go. It said, apologies for any confusion. It says, while the previous content does include LSI keywords, I agree that they could be woven into the text more strategically. Here's a revised version, and it's rewriting it. See that? So we're asking it to correct itself. So if there are I thought I was sharing my screen. You guys get to stare at me again while I write prompts. So here's what I wrote right there. Are you sure you used enough LSI keywords in this content? If not, rewrite it and fix it. Okay. And it apologized and rewrote the content. So in this case, I asked it if it used all the keywords and then it even gave me a list of the keywords it used. There we go. Now you can also do some stuff where you can start a new chat window and give it a new persona and have it check its own work. So what do I mean by this? So let's say you have one persona, right? Remember the B step, and that persona might be, act as an expert in dog training and write an article about blah. Okay. Well, you could take that article, feed it back and say, act as an expert in persuasion and check this article to make sure that it's written correctly. Right. So you can have it critique its own stuff, and almost like you're almost giving ChatGPT like a schizophrenia or multiple personalities, right? So it can have multiple things checking one another. There's a really interesting project, Auto GPT it's called, that does this automatically. It actually can break tasks up and actually check its own work. So it makes ChatGPT act as a different persona and check its own work to verify that it actually correctly followed your instructions. It's quite interesting. But you can do this by hand by simply talking to it and telling it to correct itself, telling it to check its work. Because sometimes the first time you ask it to do something, it doesn't quite come out exactly how you want or following your instructions specifically. So that's why asking it to correct itself is often a smart thing to follow up with. Now, moving on. Something that is relatively new at the time of recording this training is plugins and browsers inside ChatGPT. And there's a lot, the world of AI is evolving so quickly, literally day by day. I could teach you something today and it will be out of date tomorrow. And it's amazing how fast this world is evolving. And as of right now, at least ChatGPT has opened up. They have now plugins. This was a private thing that was only available to some users, and they're now rolling it out more broadly. And also ChatGPT can now browse the web. If you didn't know that, you must have the Plus account. You have to be paying for a paid account to get this, but it will be rolled out broadly where you can use plugins that do all kinds of interesting things, and it can browse the web and you can have it check stuff for you. Let me give you an example really quick. So let's say, for example, I don't know. Here, let's do this. We will go to Google, go to the big G, and let's search for Make Money Online. And let's forget the sponsored. Okay, here's the number one result, right? So let's take this link. Let's go over here to ChatGPT. We're going to start a new chat. Go to GTP4 and see, here's the browsing feature. So we're going to click browsing. We're going to tell it, visit this page and extract all the LSI keywords used on the page that help it to rank for the keyword phrase, make money online. Now, this is a little buggy, so we'll see how it does. So it's it's not always perfect, but so it's going to visit the page. It's literally going to that page, and it will try to follow my instructions. And oh, am I showing myself again? I can't believe I keep doing that. So to show you what I did, I got to wait for it to complete now. Okay, so it is going through, scrolling through the page. It's extracting all the keywords. And this browse feature can take quite some time. In fact, I've had it take up to 10 minutes as it's doing different browse. I actually did a test earlier today where I asked it to search Google for me. I said, hey, search Google for this keyword and extract all of the articles. Or you could tell it to search Google and extract the headlines, or search Google and extract the keywords. And that kind of stuff can take, 10 minutes plus. So you can see here, when it's browsing, you can see an update right here of what it's doing. And you can also click this little thing to get a step-by-step telling you what it's doing. And we can also tell it's thinking, because that prompt down here that Bill talked about earlier, see the little dots animation down here? So we know it's thinking and it's doing stuff. And see there, so this is a little buggy. So it goes to show you billion-dollar companies are still in beta, just like we are. So it's going to continue doing this. So I am going to, it's retrying now. But while it's doing that, I'll come back here. But the point is, the world of AI is evolving quite rapidly. In fact, there's some new technology that I'm incredibly excited to start using. We're just getting introduced to it. It's going to really let us do some just amazing things in push button AI. And so this is just such an evolution. Now, what I would like to do is, I just realized we are down to 5 minutes before I have to end the broadcast. So I want to throw it to questions from the audience about this advanced prompt engineering, the be do have concept, or any of the things we've talked about so far. Let's cover those real fast. And Bill, can you help me with that? I haven't been able to keep watching the chat. I've been too busy getting my screen sharing messed up.
I'll see what I've gathered here.
Okay.
Some of it's not on that topic. One question that is sort of a technique question, and I tried to answer it in the chat. It basically is, do you always just ask it to do several things in one prompt, or do you break that up into multiple prompts?
Yeah, remember that Russian doll nested prompt idea? We break it down and ask it to each. So first I start with a general outline. So I'll say, hey, give me an outline of what should be in this article. Then it will tell me a list of things. Then I'll take each section and I'll say, give me an outline of what should be in this section. Okay, great. Now write that section, right? And then it writes that section. I'll copy that, paste it off to the side. Then I'll go to the next section and do the same thing. And I do section by section, but I start at the top by getting it to break down the big picture. You know, what are the list of subheadlines that I should use in an article? Or what are the list of concepts or segments I should use? And then I let it break it down. Then I get it to create it step by step. Okay. Cool. Next. And let's stay on topic for the purposes of our recording for the training materials for the moment. We'll go just a couple of minutes over, I'm sure. So we'll make an edit point here real fast as well. So for those of you who are ultimate customers, those of you who have access to our VIP coaching and your one-on-one coach, office hours are starting in 3 minutes. So for you, you have been emailed a Zoom link. For everybody in the ultimate program, you should have been emailed a Zoom link where you get to come on Zoom, on camera, on mic, and be part of our office hours to ask questions and get coaching. I'm going to be jumping in there in just a couple of minutes when we end off here. But just a heads up for the ultimate. So we'll continue taking questions for just a couple more minutes. Since I went long again on content, I can't help myself. And then we're going to be wrapping up here, and I'm going to jump over into office hours over there with Jay. So any other on-topic questions for the moment?
If I put in the same prompt, will I get the same article?
No, interestingly enough, it varies. So every time is not the same. So we can put the exact same prompt and get different answers. it's quite interesting, but it does change.
Okay. I'm sifting through some off-topic stuff quickly here.
Mm-hmm. And while you're doing that, I'll show real quick the results came back. So here was my browse prompt, right? So remember I asked it to browse the web. It took a bit of time. It kept having to retry because it was failing. And then it actually, here are the keywords. So it just gave me, which is pretty powerful when you think about that. I now have 32 keywords that it is saying I should use in any article. If I want to rank any article for the word make money online, it's saying I must use these 32 keywords if I really want to make it work. So that is pretty powerful.
This is a little bit more general, but kind of how to use the same thing. So it's kind of on topic.
Yep.
Can you build another course using ChatGPT from the original course on your website?
Sure. In fact, you could expand your course, right? So let's say that you have written a push button AI course and you decide you want to make it longer or add more lessons. You can absolutely use the strategy I just showed you, and you'll be copying and pasting those bits into your WordPress site and creating. You could make new courses. You could make new lessons. You could expand and extend the lessons you already have. All of those things are possible using the strategies I showed you today.
There are several people who have, I think, been trying to follow along as you were working. And so as of the broadcast time, whenever we're broadcasting this, they don't have in their account access to the web browsing feature. So I think that depends on a lot of variables that we don't know. Some people have them, some people don't. And if they don't, and you have a paid account, it's probably coming.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Requirement 1 is it must be a paid account. Requirement 2 is that they have to give it to you. So it's rolling out. They just recently started rolling this out broadly. So it was only by approval only, like you had to apply and get accepted, and it was just a small group of people had it. But now it's available if you don't have it now, you will have it soon. So they're rolling it out, and it's going to be broadly released now. It's still what they call a beta feature, and it is buggy, as you saw on the screen there. It took several tries before it finally got it right. There's in fact, I would say basically the entire OpenAI company is still in beta. Honestly,
they're scrambling. They definitely had a huge reaction, and I can't imagine I can imagine what it's like trying and meet the demand.
Yeah, the largest, fastest product launch in human history. So yes. Cool.
There are lots of other questions, but they're not sort of specific to the subject. So I don't know. I'm going to try. There are several of them that, because of how people are using chat, I can't reply in chat. So those ones, if you don't get a reply from me, please send in a ticket to help at, where's my button? Push button AI.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we are creeping in and overlapping with Jay's office hours. So I do want to bring things to a close. So let's do this. I'm going to try to do a rapid fire in just a couple of minutes, bang out whatever questions we can get through. I know we won't be able to answer them all. So just like Bill said, if we miss your question or you need clarification, there you go. That's where you go to get it. But I need to wrap up and let all of our ultimate customers jump over onto office hours and get started over there.
So you want a couple of rapid fire ones?
Yeah, let's do rapid fire. I'll try to be fast.
When will a tutor be available?
Don't know yet. Soon.
Okay. That was like the only rapid fire one that I had stored up. Let's see. Okay, that question is going to take me longer to read than we even have left.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a question about the order of doing things. Basically, should they request add-ons and then add other lessons and courses and stuff like that, big major upgrades, or should they do that first and then request the add-ons?
Yeah, I would. Well, first of all, let's put a qualifier on this. We'll put air quotes, big major upgrades, right? If you're extensively changing the contents, you're going to want to wait till after the add-ons are done, because the idea isn't that, you triple the size of the course and then we have to spend triple the money to create the add-ons, because they do consume our add-ons, believe it or not. Even though it's using AI, it's quite expensive to create them. So if you're going to be like doubling the size of your course, the add-ons are not intended to create video content or audio content that's 2 or 3 times as long as what we're outputting for you. So if you're going to be making extensive additions to your materials, do those after your add-ons. It will be my request, just because our systems are not designed to do those super long content. But so generally the procedure is this, just quickly in a nutshell. You do a quick look over your site, right? You're looking for major things that are wrong, right? Or there's some formatting thing you want to fix, or you're just making some polishing and tweaks and improvements, right? That's the idea. You can do that, then submit for add-ons, right? And once you submit for add-ons, you need to stop changing your site and just wait, right? That's the thing. Once the add-on process starts, consider your site locked and frozen, right? So you just lock it, don't touch it until the add-ons are complete, and then you'll get a notification that your add-ons are complete, and then you go back to work, right? That'll be how that works. And to request your add-ons, that's also the same email right now. We will have an automated way for you to do that coming soon, but for now, you just email help@pushbutton.ai when you want your add-ons put on the site. They'll just double check with you and make sure that you're ready, that you're gonna, the site, you did your polishing, it's acceptable, and then boom, the add-on process begins. So that's how that works. All right, got barely time for one more, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, I can ask and answer this one. This is related to add-ons, and people I don't. So to clear up the expectations, someone's saying that they have had emails for a week, but have not had seen their ads yet.
Yeah. Let me take this one, Bill.
Sure, go ahead.
So the add-on process is a multi-step process, and if you sit back and watch, you'll be able to see things appearing on your website. Like one day, there's a logo. Next day, look, there's emails. And then you might say, look, there's an audio, and there's another. Like it's rolling out. It's a rolling process once it starts. So some of the steps also rely on a prior step. So like you can't do them simultaneously. Like the video uses the audio. So yeah, exactly. So they're done in a particular sequence for us, and it is time consuming. So just so you know, it's not an instantaneous process. And that's why once you've asked for add-ons to start, you're going to need to just consider your site locked and frozen and stay out of it until we will notify you when add-ons are complete, and then you're off to the races.
Cool. I think that catches us up. Like I said, there were a few questions that were well off topic and beyond the scope of what we can answer this fast. So please send in support questions to the support email, and we'll tackle those.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope today's content was useful. Was it? Did you get some value out of the prompt engineering that we went over today? And was my style of how I do prompts kind of weird? I wasn't sure how people would take my spiritual prompts that we do here. So, right, because we're recap that. We're basically trying to get the AI to emulate what a living, breathing human would do. And that's where the be, do, have comes in. And although that might have been a little odd, hopefully it made sense for everybody and was useful. But that's how we do it here, and that's what gets us pretty amazing results. And I do want to thank you, Bill, for once again your help during these broadcasts. I know you're super busy, and you know when you make the time to come join me, and I definitely appreciate it. So, and then everybody else, I want to thank you for being part of the Push Button AI family, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.